And it's really just an overview. So as we go through these levels, and you see that the first emanation coming out of, view this as sort of an infinite field of consciousness that then begins to move from absolute, unbounded, undifferentiated mind stuff, spirit, into the cosmos. And the first emanation is causality. And it's a tone, and I guess in the mystical literature, sometimes it's referred to as the primal thought. So of the infinite great being, the spirit, and it's like that saying, in the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was with God, and what have you. But what those are all sort of trying to, and there are various versions of that in every tradition, Native American, Vedic, is that from the unbounded field and infinite being, there's a initial primal thought that is actually a tone. Now, when I died in 1973, and my near-death experience, I actually, during that period, went out and heard that tone emanating from infinite consciousness. And it's kind of corny. It's like you hear people talk about the cosmic hum. It's not a hum. It's like it's indescribable in a sense, but it's actually everything that exists and has existed and will exist enfolded in a multi-tonal thought form. Boom. Primal. That differentiates into specific tonalities, thought forms, that are within everything that exists discretely, a tree, a star, your body, whatever. And they all have a resonant frequency. So you can think of this as thought resonant frequency. A mantra, by the way, is just the sound component of a thought. That's all it is. So everything that exists in the cosmos has within it, at a very, very subtle level, emanating from the unbounded consciousness, through the primal thought differentiating, becoming more and more differentiated, a specific, discrete sound. So it's like everyone has their own music, their own tone, and it's all different. Everything is different. And it's all frequency and vibration. Just remember, it's all frequency and vibration, but at a consciousness level, and thought level. And this is why you've heard stories of people who have attained a certain ability where they can actually think with tonality about something and then materialize that object. From consciousness to thought to 3D. That's not allegory, or that literally can be done. Why is it important to understand that? Because advanced interstellar civilization uses this cosmology to not only manufacture, materialize, dematerialize, but go from point A to B. We're going to get into this. I'm going to take you on this is getting into the deep waters now. But to understand it, you have to understand how the architecture of the cosmos is made. Now, from that, this all precedes any form. Is the pure, it's very abstract, causality, consciousness, and then the primal thought, and then the pure tone thought that's within each thing. It just differentiates infinitely. Now that's before there's any form, meaning light. From the resonance of the frequency of the tonality, that music of the spheres, music of your soul, that then brings in the form of light. Now the finest emanation of that, some would call it the most great light, is what people call the personal aspect of God or the Creator or the Great Spirit, where you actually see something, as opposed to the pure abstract spirit of unboundedness. Does this make sense to people? If I'm losing you, you just say, I'll hear you. I got good hearing. And then, from that emanation, this most great light, this pure, you then have the discrete, just like the primal thought has within it that unfolds the tonality of everything that exists. This first emanation of form, light, has within it each discrete individual light form. As some people call it astral, the light body. But at the very finest level, that gets into what people call like the celestial, the very high, rarefied, finest energy. And then there are others that are more, less refined, and some that are pretty dense, if it's pretty low energy, let's say. But still not 3D. We're not material yet. We haven't materialized yet. So that world has a lot within it. It's the world of light. It's where you go when you drop your body and pass away, which I had this experience as a young man. Everyone who's born will go there. And it's an infinite, if the physical universe is infinite, this is also infinite. But it's almost like the world of that astral light has so many dimensional aspects. This is not one dimension. It has many, 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 many. From the finest level to the most expressed, where it's just one click more higher frequency and vibration than matter. It's going to make sense in a minute why I'm taking you on this journey. And this is where it gets interesting. Because all extraterrestrial civilizations and spacecraft, to go from one star system to another, have to drop out of linearity, straight line, matter, in and through these other dimensions. This is why some people have incorrectly said they're not extraterrestrial, they're interdimensional. Well, actually, it's an either-or question. It's this intersecting set. We'll get to this in a moment. But what you need to understand is that if you're a civilization advanced enough to go from one star system to another, or one galaxy to another, you cannot just speed up to the speed of light, which is still too slow. Because Einstein was correct. As you approach the speed of light, you take on infinite mass. So the only way, you don't accelerate linearly, you actually, with your whole spacecraft and everyone on it, resonantly, frequency and vibration, it's all electronics, and mostly electromagnetic, the magnetic part, we'll get into this, and it shifts dimensionally. This is why a craft could be right there, it's there and it's gone. Or if they want to, they can put the Chinook helicopters and that whole team, and boom, 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 instantly, teleport. But where are they between A and B? 3D A, 3D B. That's most of the cosmos. That's what no one's talking about. That's what everyone here has to understand in granular detail. Detail. Because if you don't understand it, you're not going to understand ET. You might understand an ARV, a man-made one. Those are pretty clunky, but you're not going to understand Interstellar. And you're here to be ambassadors to the universe. So you have to understand this. I'm going to try to make it as direct as I can. Now, when as you differentiate through these sort of light worlds into more and more dense frequency, let's call it, and vibration, you're eventually almost interfacing or transecting through waveforms matter. So actually the material, what we call the cosmos, even Carl Sagan, the billions and billions of stars. Well, yeah, fine, good, that's interesting. But let's talk about where all that's emanating from and what is it beyond the speed of light and matter and the frequency of electrons and protons and neutrons. What's at that level? What precedes that? This is what we're talking about. Because at that point, you're in this, what I sort of expanded here on this graph, this thing called the gap. It's like, mind the gap. Everyone ignores the gap. It's the transection between these other dimensions and the 3D cosmos. Now remember, I'm describing this with words that are linear, but I'm talking about a quantum holographic conscious reality. Just keep clicking back to that. But, you know, I'm having to speak in English here, which are words strung together. But the idea of it is that it's a conscious, and it's all interwoven. It's all within each other. And it's all awake. It's beautiful. So as a civilization aspires to be interstellar, it has to master at least the first level of transdimensional physics, what's called transdimensional physics, where the resonant frequencies and vibrations that are used in electromagnetic systems are sufficient to take an object like this, and some people would call it angular momentum, and spin, move it, tilt it out of space-time, and it's at a frequency higher than the speed of light and the speed of electrons and protons and neutrons, or even subatomic particles. So a lot of people talk about this flux field that all of, in the quantum ocean, that all of subatomic particles and matter is fluxing in and out of, quarks, all of it. What is that substrate? What is that? That's the interface between that and these other dimensions. So when you begin to operate on that level, I've been in some interesting skiffs and classified places where they want me to talk about this because they're doing experiments with very high voltage and frequency things, and things are happening. They don't understand. I say, oh, this is what's happening. You've just punched a hole into the ninth ring of hell, and some boogum pops out at Montauk or at the Lockheed Cube out in the desert. We'll get into that later. I call it electronic black magic, WSFM, weird science and frickin' magic. It's what they call it at the CIA. My uncle's old company, Northrop Grumman, just called it PFM, pure fucking magic. I literally, a lot of fun. Okay, so when you begin to contemplate this, and you're dealing with interstellar civilizations, you have to have an understanding commensurate with the phenomenon. You're not talking about a Boeing 747 or even an alien reproduction vehicle here now. Now we're talking about interstellar, transdimensional interstellar, TDIS. If you hear that term TDIS, I'm referring to transdimensional interstellar. In a sense, it's a redundancy because all interstellar civilizations and vehicles and what have you, technologies, have to be transdimensional. Now, I use the word transdimensional as opposed to inter because they're actually transecting multiple dimensions. It's not like they're locked in one dimension and popping into this one. That'd be a poltergeist, right? So you have someone like in the ER, I had someone drop dead, had been stabbed and drunk, and he came in code blue, and couldn't get him back. And about 4 a.m, in the trauma room where he died, the EKG machine turns on, and the IV pump, and the cabinets fly open, and stuff are being thrown on the floor. This guy was pissed. And he was in a spirit body, but in a very coarse form, where it could then bump up into the fabric of matter in the ER. This is a true story. Of course, you don't put that on the notes for your medical records. But these are the classified ER notes. Top secret, eyes only. But a lot of doctors and nurses have seen this kind of phenomenon. And what that is that person the body was in the morgue by then, in the hospital. But his body of light, he was so furious, he was able to punch into and create a punch into this dimension enough to cause this phenomenon. So that's what people call poltergeist. All right. I'm trying to connect a bunch of dots here quickly. You following me still? I know it's weird stuff, perhaps, but This is not kindergarten. We're at the PhD level, right? You guys are all light beings and spirit beings. You're very smart. So that's why we're traveling quick. Now, at that point, a civilization that's gone interstellar capable, and that means they're traversing dimensions. They've had to master a lot of this cosmology, maybe not at the celestial. There are different levels of civilizations. We'll go through those. Some, that light being I showed earlier, those would be a physical planetary civilization, the equivalent of an angelic celestial being, except they still have planets because they've chosen to still be in the cosmos, the physical cosmos. But they're at that level of consciousness.